the Mansion of Dreams. On the outskirts of the Misty Forest, where the trees stood tall and tangled, and the fog curled endlessly through the underbrush, there sat a mysterious and foreboding structure known as the Dream Mansion. Its wooden frame, ancient and weathered by time, creaked with the whispers of forgotten centuries. The mansion was large and sprawling, though few ever ventured close enough to comprehend its true dimensions. Vines crawled over the walls, and moss clung to the stones beneath the eaves, but the windows remained clear as if watching the world with unblinking, glassy eyes. No one in the neighboring villages knew exactly when or why the mansion had been built, nor did they know much about the sorceress who had once lived there. Sibyl was her name, a figure of legend, half remembered and half feared. It was said that her powers were so vast that she could command the elements with a whisper and bend time itself with a gesture. Some believed she had made a pact with ancient spirits or perhaps something darker, for no mortal could possess the knowledge she wielded. But Sibyl had vanished long ago, fading into the haze of history as mysteriously as she had arrived. What remained was the Dream Mansion, a relic of her presence, a place filled with her magic, her secrets, and perhaps her lingering spirit. Over the years, the mansion had garnered a reputation, not just as a place of danger, but also as a place of infinite wonder. Treasure hunters spoke in hushed tones of the riches that might be hidden within its walls. The most sought-after prize was said to be sorcerer's stones, gems imbued with magic so potent they could grant power beyond measure. Others believed that ancient artifacts lay forgotten in chests sealed by Sibyl's spells, wands that could conjure storms, books that whispered forgotten incantations, and potions that had stood the test of time, unspoiled and ready to be used. The mansion was also said to be haunted by small, restless spirits, ghosts of those who had entered without permission or perhaps souls bound by Sibyl herself. They drifted through the rooms and halls like pale smoke, never speaking but always watching, always waiting. Despite these eerie tales, the Dream Mansion drew adventurers from far and wide. Some came for the promise of wealth, others for the thrill of uncovering forbidden magic. All of them, however, were warned of the mansion's greatest danger, its traps. Sibyl, though long gone, had woven layers of enchantments into the fabric of the mansion itself, traps that would trigger without warning and in ways no one could predict. One step in the wrong direction, one door opened without proper respect, and a traveler could find themselves ensnared in a spell from which there was no escape. No one who entered the mansion uninvited ever returned the same, if they returned at all. Yet for all the rumors and legends, few knew the true nature of the Dream Mansion's power. The treasure seekers focused on what they could gain from the place, the artifacts and stones, but they missed the mansion's true gift, dreams. Sibyl had named her home the Dream Mansion for a reason, though the meaning had been lost to time. Within its deepest chambers lay the sorceress's enchanted bed. This bed, carved from dark wood and draped in velvet and silk, had been the source of her greatest pleasure. By sleeping upon it, she could see only pleasant dreams, dreams so vivid they could alter her very perception of reality. In her dreams, she shaped worlds, communed with ancient beings, and explored the farthest reaches of magic. The bed was her sanctuary, her throne of reverie. But no one had slept on the bed for centuries. One autumn evening, as the sun set low behind the misty forest and cast long shadows over the mansion, a new figure approached. Her name was Illyria, a young sorceress from a distant land who had heard the tales of the Dream Mansion all her life. Unlike the treasure hunters, Illyria wasn't searching for riches or power. She had come for something far more elusive, the truth. Illyria was wise enough to know she couldn't simply walk into the mansion. So, she stopped at the edge of the overgrown path that led to the entrance and knelt down, placing her hand on the earth. She whispered a soft incantation, a request for permission, hoping the spirits of the place would hear her. The air grew still for a moment, and the ever-present mist seemed to part, revealing the mansion more clearly. Ilaria took this as a sign and rose to her feet, her heart pounding as she stepped forward. The door to the mansion opened of its own accord as she approached, creaking on its ancient hinges. Ilaria paused in the doorway, feeling the weight of the magic that filled the place. It pressed against her senses, thick and potent. She took a deep breath and stepped inside. The interior was just as grand as she had imagined, high ceilings with wooden beams, walls lined with shelves holding dusty books and strange trinkets, chandeliers that glowed faintly with magical light. But there was also an overwhelming sense of stillness, as though the mansion itself was holding its breath. As Ilaria explored, she could feel the presence of the ghosts watching her. They flitted through the air, just on the edge of her vision, but none approached. They seemed curious but not hostile. She offered them a quiet greeting, knowing they were likely bound to the mansion by Sibyl's magic. She passed through room after room, each filled with strange and wondrous things, alembics filled with long-forgotten potions, mirrors that reflected not her image but glimpses of other worlds, cabinets filled with enchanted objects. Yet despite all this, she was drawn deeper into the mansion, as if something was calling her. At last, she found herself standing before a grand, ornate door at the end of a long hallway. The wood was dark, almost black, and carved with intricate symbols. Ilaria knew, instinctively, that this was Sibyl's private chamber. She hesitated only for a moment before pushing the door open. Inside was a large, circular room. The walls were lined with bookshelves, but the room's focal point was the bed. It was exactly as the stories had described, lavish, with deep crimson velvet curtains and pillows that looked impossibly soft. Ilaria could feel the power radiating from it, an ancient magic that had endured the centuries. She stepped closer, her heart racing. Could this truly be the bed of dreams? The bed that had allowed Sibyl to shape her reality. Ilaria felt a strange compulsion to lie down on the bed. She hesitated, knowing that this could be a trap, but the pull was too strong. Slowly, she removed her cloak and shoes, and with a deep breath, she climbed onto the bed. The moment her head touched the pillow, the world around her dissolved. She found herself standing in a vast, otherworldly landscape, a place of endless skies and shimmering stars. It was a dream, but it felt as real as anything she had ever experienced. She looked around, and in the distance, she saw a figure. It was Sibyl. The sorceress appeared as she had been in her prime, tall and regal, with long silver hair and eyes that glowed with ancient knowledge. She regarded Ilaria with a knowing smile. "Welcome," Sibyl said, her voice echoing through the dream. "You are the first in many years to come seeking not treasure, but truth." Ilaria bowed her head. "I seek to understand your magic, to know the secrets of the dream mansion." Sibyl stepped closer, her gaze piercing. "The mansion is a reflection of the mind, a place where dreams and reality blur. Those who come seeking power or wealth find only what they imagine. But you seek something deeper. I can offer you knowledge, but be warned, it comes at a price." Ilaria nodded. "I am willing to pay it." Sibyl smiled, a touch of sadness in her eyes. "Then sleep, young sorceress, and dream of what you truly desire." And with that, the dream faded, and Ilaria fell into a deep, endless sleep, one filled with dreams of forgotten magic, ancient secrets, and the boundless possibilities of the dream mansion. The young huntress, Lyra, had always been drawn to tales of adventure and danger, and the dream mansion was the most tantalizing legend of them all. She had grown up hearing stories about the haunted manor at the edge of the Misty Forest, and about the untold treasures hidden within its ancient walls. While most hunters and adventurers spoke of the dangers with fear, Lyra felt only a burning desire to conquer them. She wasn't interested in sorcerer's stones or enchanted artifacts. She craved the thrill of the unknown and the satisfaction of overcoming the impossible. Armed with her bow and a sharp wit, Lyra made her way to the dream mansion one misty morning. The fog clung to her like a second skin as she approached the decrepit structure, its wooden facade looming out of the haze. The air around the mansion felt thick, like the very atmosphere resisted her presence. Undeterred, she pushed open the heavy front door, which creaked loudly, as though it hadn't been disturbed in years. The interior was dim and cold, and the shadows seemed to move in the corners of her vision. Lyra's heartbeat quickened as she stepped inside, her boots making soft thuds on the dusty floor. Almost immediately, she sensed she wasn't alone. The air grew colder, and a faint, eerie wail echoed through the corridors. Lyra's hand tightened around the grip of her bow, but she forced herself to stay calm. She had come prepared, after all. A few spells of protection she had learned from an old herbalist were etched into her arrows, and she carried a small charm that was supposed to repel malevolent spirits. Whether or not it worked remained to be seen. As she ventured deeper into the mansion, the whispers of the ghosts became more distinct. She felt eyes on her, though she saw no one. Then, in the faint light filtering through the high windows, she saw them, the first of the mansion's inhabitants. The ghosts were small, pale figures, no more than shadows drifting through the air. They moved silently, their faces hidden in the gloom, but Lyra could feel their intent. They were watching, waiting. She pressed on, ignoring the chill in her bones. But it wasn't long before the mansion began to reveal its true nature. The first trap came unexpectedly. A door slammed shut behind her, and the floor beneath her feet shifted violently. The wall seemed to close in, and for a heart-stopping moment, Lyra thought she was going to be crushed. She threw herself against the wall, and the pressure ceased, but she knew she couldn't rely on luck to see her through the entire mansion. The next trap was subtler. She had been exploring what appeared to be a dusty study, its walls lined with bookshelves, when she felt a strange tugging at the edge of her consciousness. The air grew thick, and her mind foggy. A powerful enchantment was in the room, alluring her into a stupor. She staggered toward a grand desk in the center of the room, her vision blurring as the temptation to sleep overwhelmed her. But just before she collapsed, she caught sight of something, a mirror in the corner of the room. Reflected in its surface was a shadowy figure, a ghost, weaving a spell to ensnare her. With a surge of willpower, Lyra broke free of the enchantment, grabbed an arrow from her quiver, and fired it at the figure. The arrow whizzed through the air, its tip glowing faintly with the protective spell she had etched into it. The ghost let out a wail and dissipated into the air. Panting, Lyra knew she was in over her head. She had barely survived the first few rooms, and the mansion was vast. If the traps became any more dangerous, she might not make it out alive. For the first time, she felt a flicker of fear. It was then that she met him. As she stumbled back into the hallway, leaning against the wall to catch her breath, a figure stepped out of the shadows. He was tall and cloaked in a long, dark robe, his face hidden beneath a hood. Lyra immediately drew her bow, but the man raised his hands in a gesture of peace. "I'm not here to harm you," he said, his voice calm and even. "In fact, I might be your only chance at surviving this place." Lyra narrowed her eyes. "Who are you?" The man lowered his hood, revealing a weathered face, sharp features, and eyes that glinted with knowledge. My name is Kane. I've been exploring the Dream Mansion for years. I know its secrets better than anyone. She didn't lower her bow. Why should I trust you? Kane chuckled softly. Because you'll never get through the mansion alone. You've already encountered its traps. There are many more, far worse. But with my help, you might stand a chance. In exchange, we split whatever we find, equally. Lyra hesitated, weighing her options. She didn't like the idea of sharing the spoils, but Kane's offer was tempting. She had barely made it through the first traps, and there were no guarantees she'd survive the others. Besides, something about Kane's demeanor told her he wasn't lying. He had the air of someone who had seen too much and survived it all. Fine, she said at last, lowering her bow. But if you try anything, I won't hesitate to take you down. Kane smiled, his eyes gleaming. Agreed. Together, they ventured deeper into the mansion. With Kane's guidance, they avoided many of the traps, hidden pressure plates, enchanted statues that sprang to life if disturbed, and rooms that looped endlessly if they took a wrong turn. He seemed to know the layout of the mansion intimately, guiding Lyra to secret passages and hidden rooms that she never would have found on her own. They opened ancient chests filled with gleaming crystals, some pulsating with raw magical energy. They discovered cabinets lined with bottles of strange, glowing liquids, potions brewed by Sibyl herself, though neither of them dared to taste any. In one chamber, they found a massive staff, carved from dark wood and adorned with intricate runes. Kane's eyes gleamed when he saw it. This, he whispered, is what the legends speak of. A sorceress's staff, capable of channeling unimaginable power. Lyra eyed the staff warily, unsure if she wanted to touch it. Is this the big catch? Kane nodded. For most, yes. But the mansion is tricky, it gives each seeker what they desire most. For some, it's power. For others, wealth. And for you? Lyra frowned, not answering. She didn't know yet what the mansion would offer her. But she had a feeling the staff wasn't it. They continued exploring, finding more treasures and unlocking more of the mansion's secrets. But what surprised Lyra most was that, as they passed through rooms they had already looted, the hiding places were full again. It was as if the mansion itself replenished its treasures, ensuring that no matter how many explorers passed through its halls, it would never be emptied. It's a living place, Kane explained. The treasures within are tied to the magic that sustains the mansion. Every month, it resets. No matter how much is taken, it will always refill. Lyra nodded, though the idea unnerved her. It was as if the mansion wanted people to keep coming, to keep searching. But for what purpose? By the time they had explored most of the mansion, Lyra was weighed down with treasures, crystals, potions, and rare artifacts. But something nagged at her. She had come for the thrill of the adventure, but the mansion had shown her more than she bargained for. There was a deeper mystery here, something beyond mere riches. As they stood in the final room, Kane looked at her with a curious expression. Are you satisfied? Lyra glanced at the staff in his hands, at the treasure they had gathered, and then back at the mansion. No, she said slowly. There's something more here. Something we're missing. Kane's smile was cryptic. Perhaps. But that's the nature of the Dream Mansion. It gives, but it also keeps. There are always more secrets, more treasures. And only those who seek the truth find what they truly desire. With that, Lyra understood that the mansion wasn't just a place of traps and treasures. It was a puzzle, one that would never be fully solved. Long ago, before the dream mansion became a place of legend and peril, it was merely the dream of a young sorceress named Sibyl. Her power was unmatched, her beauty ethereal, and her ambition boundless. But for all her might and grace, Sibyl's heart longed for something more than the transient victories of magic. She wanted a sanctuary, a place where she could weave the fabric of her own dreams into reality, where she could create a haven not just for herself, but for the magic that flowed through her veins. The dream mansion was not merely a house, but a grand vision. Sibyl wanted it to be a living thing, a space that reflected her inner desires and the vastness of her imagination. She envisioned a place where the boundaries between the material world and the world of dreams would blur, a sanctuary where spirits and sorcery would dance in harmony, and where she could retreat to explore the deepest realms of her fantasies and her craft. But such a place was not easy to create. Sibyl began her work in the heart of the Misty Forest, a place already steeped in magic. It was said that the trees there whispered forgotten spells, and the fog that curled between the trunks carried the voices of ancient spirits. This would be the perfect spot for her mansion, where magic pooled naturally and the veil between worlds was thin. But Sibyl knew she could not build this house alone. She called upon spirits, ancient beings of the ether who had existed long before humankind had walked the earth. Some were benevolent, others mischievous, and some even dangerous. They were bound by no laws except their own, and they would help her, for a price. The first spirit she summoned was a great elemental, a being of stone and earth who slumbered deep beneath the roots of the forest. Its body was the ground itself, its voice like the rumbling of mountains. Sibyl asked the elemental to raise the foundation of the mansion, to pull from the earth great stones and shape them into a sturdy structure. The elemental agreed, but not for gold or treasure. It demanded something far more valuable, Sibyl's knowledge. Specifically, it wanted the secret to an ancient spell that could bind a soul to a place forever, ensuring it would never be forgotten. Sibyl hesitated, for the spell was dangerous and dark, but she knew that the mansion could not be built without the elemental's strength. So, she paid the price. With a few whispered words, she imparted the knowledge to the elemental, who rumbled in satisfaction. The ground shook, and from the earth rose massive stones, perfectly shaped and fitted to form the mansion's walls. It was the beginning of her dream made manifest. Next, Sibyl called upon the spirits of the air, swift and fleeting beings who were barely more than a breath on the wind. They could move faster than thought, and she needed their help to carve the intricate designs into the wood and stone of her mansion, runes of protection, enchantments for strength and longevity, and symbols to keep unwanted visitors at bay. The air spirits agreed, but they, too, asked for a strange form of payment. They wanted Sibyl to teach them how to weave their own form of enchantment, a spell that would allow them to live as gusts of wind, untethered and free, for eternity. Sibyl agreed, though this spell required her to delve into realms of magic even she rarely touched. She crafted it carefully, using threads of ancient starlight and whispers of the night sky, and when the air spirits were satisfied, they danced around her mansion, their hands invisible but their presence felt in every intricate carving. Days turned into weeks, and the mansion grew, its walls rising higher, its halls stretching longer. Sibyl summoned spirit after spirit to help in its construction, each with its own peculiar demand. The fire spirits who warmed the hearths asked for a flame that could never be extinguished, which Sibyl conjured from the heart of a fallen star. The water spirits who blessed the wells asked for a spell that would allow them to move between rivers and lakes as easily as fish, which Sibyl granted with an incantation that rippled through the waters of the world. Yet the hardest task of all was enchanting the bed, the heart of her dream mansion, and the seat of her deepest fantasy. Sibyl wanted a bed that would give her not just rest, but peace, where her dreams would be filled only with beauty and joy, untainted by the nightmares that haunted most mortals. But more than that, she wanted her dreams to become gateways. She wanted to use her dreams to travel across the world in astral form, to walk among the stars, and to visit places her physical body could not reach. She wanted to converse with spirits, to learn their secrets, and to explore the unseen corners of reality. To enchant such a bed required the help of the most elusive spirits of all, dream spirits, beings of pure thought and imagination. These spirits were rare and difficult to summon, for they existed only in the moments between waking and sleeping, and they answered to no one. Sibyl spent months preparing the ritual to call them. She crafted it from the threads of her own dreams, using moonlight as ink and stardust as her parchment. At last, on the night of the new moon, she performed the ritual, and the dream spirits came, floating on the edge of her vision, their forms ever shifting, their voices like distant echoes. The dream spirits listened to her request, and they agreed, but they demanded a price unlike any other. They wanted a piece of Sibyl herself, not her soul, but her dreams. In exchange for enchanting the bed, they would take a part of her imagination, a sliver of her deepest fantasies. It would not harm her, they said, but she would lose something, a dream that could never be dreamed again. Sibyl, despite her wisdom, hesitated. She understood better than most the power of dreams, and to give one up was no small thing. But she also knew that the dream mansion would never be complete without this final enchantment. So, with a heavy heart, she agreed. The dream spirits danced around the bed, weaving their magic into its very fabric. They enchanted the wood, the silk, the feathers in the pillows, and the fabric of the canopy, binding their power to the bed. When they were finished, the bed was unlike anything in the mortal world. It glowed faintly with an otherworldly light, and anyone who lay upon it would find themselves drifting into a dream of pure bliss. They could travel across the world in astral form, visiting any place they desired, speaking with spirits, and seeing things no waking mind could comprehend. And, most importantly, they would never suffer a nightmare again. Sibyl tested the bed that very night, and as soon as she closed her eyes, she found herself floating above the world. She drifted through the skies, her body weightless, her mind free. She soared over mountains and oceans, forests and deserts, until she came to a city she had never visited in the waking world. There, she walked among the people, invisible and untouchable, listening to their conversations and learning their stories. She spoke with spirits, those bound to the earth and those who had never lived. She traveled to the farthest corners of the world, places where no mortal had ever set foot. And when she awoke, she found that the dreams lingered with her, as real and vivid as any memory. From that moment on, Sibyl spent much of her time in the dream world, using her bed as a gateway to explore the mysteries of the universe. She grew more powerful with each journey, learning secrets that no mortal had ever known. The mansion became her refuge, a place where she could indulge in her deepest fantasies and craft new magic from the fragments of her dreams. But as with all magic, there was a cost. Over time, Sibyl began to feel the weight of the dream spirit's price. Though she had given them only a sliver of her dreams, that missing piece began to gnaw at her. There were dreams she could no longer have, fantasies she could no longer conjure, and though her life was filled with beauty and wonder, a part of her always felt incomplete. In the end, Sibyl's power grew so vast that she became more spirit than human. Her body faded from the material world, though her presence lingered in the mansion. Some say she became one with the dream spirits, her essence bound to the bed she had enchanted. Others believe she still travels the world in her dreams, visiting places far beyond the reach of mortals. And so the dream mansion remains, a place of wonder and danger, filled with the remnants of Sibyl's magic and the spirits who helped her build it. To this day, it calls to those who seek adventure, offering them glimpses of the beauty and power that Sibyl once knew, and perhaps the chance to walk in her dreams.